Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode. This is by far, with certainty, the most important video I've ever done, because I'm remembering all that's left of an 18-month-old boy who was killed in a fire. So what you see here is all that remains of Bobby Allen Countryman. So this is a very tragic story on two levels, and I'll warn you now, this is a very depressing story, so if you're really not in the mood, I fully understand. You might want to cut away because again, there are no graphic pictures, but it's not a very uplifting story, so I'm just warning you now, okay? So this is Bobby. His name is Bobby Allen Countryman. He was born in 1951 and he perished on 7 February 1953. His mother, Rowena, they lived in Englewood, Colorado, and she went out to hang clothes on the line, you know, back in the day when you had clotheslines. And she was out there hanging clothes, and something happened in the hallway of their apartment. It was either cleaning fluid or gasoline. It ignited and it killed Bobby. He had an older brother at the time. I think the older brother was 3, and he was unharmed, but Bobby did not make it. So again, so that's tragic. The mother, his mother Rowena, kept this. She lived another 62 and a half years after his passing. So she died at the age of 85 or 86, I believe, in 2015. And so she kept this for 62 and a half years after his passing. So these are photographs of Bobby. These are sympathy cards she received after the funeral, at the funeral. So this is all that's left of a human being. This is the record of Bobby Allen Countryman. And what's worse, what's tragic, and actually that's on so many levels. It's not just 2, it's about 4 levels. So I got this on eBay. What happened is, so let's cover this kind of pulp fiction style. We have to chronologically go backwards. So I won this auction on eBay, and this from a lady who's a seller on eBay, and she received it through an auction. And the way she got it was, there was a scrapper who went through, they call it scavenging, right? When people go through dumpsters to try to find valuables to sell. So this scrapper was going through a dumpster and found this in a dumpster after Rowena's passing. So the mother kept this for 62 and a half years. She passed away, and the loved ones who went in there to clean the house and sort through things found this and literally threw it in the trash. So it had to be a loved one, right? Because strangers don't go through valuables. So it's heartbreaking that the mother, Rowena, cherished this and kept this for 62 and a half years. And then after her passing, somebody threw it in the trash and could not have the decency to honor her memory by treasuring these photos and these sympathy cards from the funeral. And I counted it. It was 22,805 days. I just did a simple Excel. From her passing to the son's passing was 62 and a half years, but the exact amount of days was 22,805 days. So just think about how many times Rowena, the mother, racked with guilt because she was outside at the time hanging laundry, and how many times did she go back to visit this. These were probably in a shoebox, you know, because I kept things in shoeboxes back in the day. That was kind of a poor man's file cabinet, right? That's where we kept our valuables, in a shoebox. So she probably had these in a shoebox for 62 years. And how many times over those 22,805 days did she go back and cry over these photos and sympathy cards, right? You can just imagine over 62 years how many times she came back to this pile and just cried and sobbed over these pictures and sympathy cards. That's why this is worth a fortune to me. And let me tell you another thing that's tragic. I was the high bidder. I was the only bidder. And in it, the seller clearly described this for what it is, the memory of an 18-month-old baby killed in a fire. I was the only bidder, and the high bidder, of course. I took this for $9.99. So in the grand scheme of things, in all of existence, this boy's life was worth $9. And it's just tragic. So I really don't see how a loved one could have thrown this in the trash. Because even Rowena, now you know she's racked with guilt over the fire. And she was buried next to, so Bobby, he was exhumed. His body was, it looked like it, maybe not exhumed, but they changed the headstone. So he was buried by himself for those 62 years. And then when the mother passed, they had a new headstone created. So either he was exhumed and moved, or they just changed the headstone. So now he's buried next to his mother, and it says Bobby Allen Countryman, and then Rowena Oakley is her maiden name, Countryman. So they're now buried side by side, and they're reunited in death. So I'm gonna go through this. I know this is a very long intro, and I'm sorry I took so long to set up this, but it's just, man, human life. Somebody threw this in the trash. My God, that's unspeakable, unspeakable. And then for nobody to bid on it, I was the only bidder. It's just so tragic. But so anyways, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to recognize him. We're going to commemorate his life, okay? So that's what we're going to do. And we'll keep him alive by acknowledging him, acknowledging his existence. We'll go over these photographs and look at the photographs. We'll look at the sympathy cards and the newspaper clippings of the time. And that's how we'll remember Bobby Allen Countryman. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so now I'll show you, we're going to go from the photographs to some like a log, or like the guest registry at a funeral home. It looks like it was sort of that. Then we'll go to some sympathy cards and some personally handwritten letters. Okay, so we have a lot to cover here. So this is Bobby. Now a lot of these pictures you'll see, I believe that the father's name was Dale and Rowena, the mother and father, and then they had 2 children at the time. They went on to have three children survived. So 2 more children were born after Bobby's death. But in these pictures, they had Joey and Bobby's the younger of the 2. And you can see here Bobby at 1 year. So I'll show you small photos, and then we'll move into bigger photos. So Bobby's the small one. It says on the back here, let's see, Daddy, Joey, yeah, Joey's 32 months, Bobby's 16 months. So that's the father and his 2 sons. Bobby is the smaller one. This is a duplicate. There's some duplicates in here, so I'm asking your patience. This is the older brother, Joey. Joey was just 15 weeks in this photo. Joey was in the other room at the time of the accident, at the time of the fire, and Joey was unharmed. So this is Bobby here. believe that's Bobby. Handsome kid, good looking kid. I believe that's Rowena. That's the mom, I believe. It just seems that that would be his mother. And that's Bobby. Bobby had the darker hair, and Joey had the lighter hair. Okay, so this is the cemetery photo that got mixed in. I was separating them as far as when he's living, and then the cemetery photos, and that got mixed in there. So this is the one that's actually at Find a Grave. If you're familiar with the website, findagrave.com. And this is also on her obituary when Rowena passed away. This is the exact photo that was used on her obituary. She wanted Bobby to be in the photo. So again, that's why I believe when I don't think she ever forgave herself. I believe she was just racked with guilt for 62 and a half years after his passing. It's, you know, with the laundry incident. Why did I leave the cleaning fluid out? Why didn't I put it up out of reach? And so I think she was just tormented until her death, that she never forgave herself for what happened. I mean, it was an accident, but when you lose a child like that, it's, you know what I mean, as a parent, I don't think she ever forgave herself for leaving Bobby unattended near the cleaning fluid or the gasoline or whatever it is that was by an open, kind of like a heater, and it ignited. And I think she was just racked with guilt her entire adult life after this accident. Bobby and Joey. It's classic 1950s clothing. Classic 1950s. Okay, so this is Bobby at 4 weeks old, Inglewood, Colorado. So this is Bobby at 4 weeks. And again, the pictures, the photos are not in chronological order as far as, because he was only 18 months old, so this is his baby pictures until 18 months. Now we'll get into some larger photos. This is Bobby at 3 months. Looks like another duplicate. Okay, so now we'll go to the burial site. So some of these are out of order too, so you'll see that just some of these were a mound of earth, and you can see chronologically over time the headstone, or at least the outline. So again, I apologize for these being not in chronological order. So here's this before even the headstone was, this is just a fresh mound of earth. So this is dated June of 53. No, wait a minute, June of 59. Also, maybe the headstone is there. So this was taken 6 years after the accident. This is also June 59. Again, the accident was February of 53. This is also from the June 59 visit, so okay. So it's clearly here the headstone is in place. 6 years later, the headstone is fully in place. Okay, so just briefly I'll show you, so let's go over his child record here. Come out a little bit. Okay, so this is his child record. Okay. Their address was 5001 South Broadway in Inglewood. So this is where little Bobby and his parents lived. So here's like a little weight record. Here's some other information. Immunization record. Some type of prescription. December 1952. 1 teaspoon daily, whatever what that medicine was. Okay, so that's little Bobby's child record, his little health record, circa, well, not circa, it was 1952. Okay, so here are some of the cards, like little I'll just zoom in here a little bit. Okay, just people were just signing cards. Some of these are taped together. Having some focus issues here. trying to just kind of swap one for the other so I don't lose focus. So kind of bear with me. I'm not trying to rush. I'm just trying to, I don't want any autofocus issues. Okay, so here's a sympathy card. Now we'll move into sympathy cards. I'm going to try to, I don't want to make the video so long as to where you can read it in depth. If you could just take a screenshot or just pause, then you could read the cards in their entirety. I'm just trying to show you. Let me come out one more time for the final photograph of Bobby. This is a big 8x10. Okay, obviously it's colorized. Okay, so now for all the greeting cards, there's a lot. We'll try to do what we can. And sorry about the light. I've lost the daylight, so I'm in a room and the light is kind of behind me throwing a shadow, so I'll try to stand out of the way as much as I can. Because I had the light to the front of me. I'm next to a large patio, glass doors, and I had natural sunlight coming in, but I've lost it. It's getting to be nighttime, so that's why there's the shift in the light. All these all these sympathy cards are from obviously 1953. So they've been kept in great condition. You can tell Rowena, the mother, really kept them in good condition. They meant something to her, of course, right? So she's kept this as kind of a tribute to her son. They're all in they're not yellowed either, which is kind of, sometimes, you know, when the paper gets this old, they yellow. So I don't know how she was storing them, but it seems they didn't yellow too much. Right, so they weren't exposed too much to the air or whatever. They were sealed somehow. I think I showed you this one already, I'm not sure. I'll show it to you again. Okay, now some letters, handwritten letters. Well, this is another sympathy card. This is kind of neat. It's from the Salvation Army. John Erickson, Lieutenant Colonel. It's kind of neat, a letter from the Salvation Army. So here are some letters that were kind of, you know, one step above a sympathy card, of course, right? So people wanted to write handwritten letters. This one is from Monday, February 16, 1953. Right, so somebody's trying to offer a little more comfort. I mean, obviously there's nothing wrong with this sympathy card. People mean well, of course, right? But then nothing can substitute for a handwritten letter. January 13. So this is 6 days after the, no, yeah, 6 days. He died on 7 February. Or excuse me, 7 January. Okay, the camera hit the time limit. So let me see real quick. 7th Feb. So this isn't making any sense. This was written on January 13. This is before his passing. So maybe the person who wrote let me just confirm. Yes, 7th Feb. This is January 13. It's not making any sense. They wrote this 3 weeks before his passing. See right here, he says, I have for you the feeling I have for you in the death of Bobby. So definitely must be a mistake in the dating of the letter. This is from the church, the pastor of the church, Springer, Harvey Springer. That's kind of nice. This is another letter, 2-pager. Springdale, Arkansas, February 16. So this makes sense. So 7th Feb, that's 9 days after his passing. So somebody wrote 9 days after the passing. Okay, and lastly, we're going to get into some newspaper clippings. Okay, so Rowena, she even saved all the newspaper clippings of the day that documented. Obviously, this is unrelated. This is a different story, but this here details the fire. This is an obituary. I'll come to the obituary last when I zoom a little bit tighter. Okay, so this kind of details the cleaning fluid incident. All of these articles really state the same thing. This is his last rites or whatever. Last rites. And one of the articles there, right there, the first one I showed you just said it was before they even got the news that he was dead. It just said baby burned. Okay, this is a follow-up article. Okay. Okay. Again, the intent here is not for you to read them in the entirety. I mean, the video would take a long time. Again, so what I'm saying is if you can take a screen capture or just pause or whatever and just read. This is the parents thanking everybody. And this is Bobby's obituary. So it says here, Countryman, Bobby Allen Countryman, 5001 South Broadway, son of Mr. and Mrs. Floyd. See, there was a lot of mistakes here. It's actually Lloyd, but they got Floyd in the obituary. It's supposed to be Lloyd Countryman, and his older brother Joey, Bobby. Arrangements later. So that's the death notice, or the kind of the obituary. And let's see, there was one other thing I had here. Okay, so this is some relatives who came in for the funeral. And this is, I think this is kind of interesting too. So the parents wrote down the train information. So the way it worked was they were originally from Afton, Oklahoma, and they moved to Inglewood, Colorado. And when Bobby died, they decided to ship his body back to Afton, Oklahoma, where they were from. And this is actually the train information that took Bobby's body back to Afton, Oklahoma. So it looks like leave 4:10 afternoon. So they're writing down the train information. Leave 4:10 afternoon. Arrive Afton noon Wednesday on Frisco 117. So that's the name of the train. The train is, like, you know, we're the Sunset Limited and the Southwest Chief, so forth and so on. So this was the name of the train. It was the Frisco 117, and this was the cost to ship Bobby's body back from Inglewood, Colorado to Afton, Oklahoma. It cost $49.19, which was quite a sum of money in 1953. I mean, that was $49 in 1953 was a lot, and especially that's not a very long trip, quite honestly, from Colorado to Oklahoma. Considering also the size of the casket, it would have been a tiny casket. So that was really, really expensive for the day. So my point, I'm coming back to Bobby, was that this is Bobby. So you can see here we kind of acknowledged his life. That was the purpose of this video. Is when all this stuff was dumped in the trash, it was as if somebody had negated his entire life. The short 18 months that this boy was on this earth, Rowena cherished all these documents. For 62.5 years, she acted as the custodian and kind of the archivist of Bobby's life. This was a testament. Everything that you saw here was a testament to his life and proof that he existed upon this earth. And it's difficult to believe that somebody would just throw this in the trash and give it absolutely no regard. It's as if they're saying this boy never existed. His life meant absolutely nothing. And again, I just can't get over it. I'm a complete stranger. No relation to this boy. No relation to his family. And I have more regard for this boy than whoever cleaned out the house. And it's just, and again, I don't want to disparage the 3 living sons. There are 3 living sons that were, right, Bobby's brothers. Because Rowena went on to have 2 more children. There was Joey and 2 more children. So I don't want to disparage them. I don't know if they gave this no regard. But it's, again, it's just tragic. It's tragic that this was in a trash dumpster. So I appreciate you sitting with me through this video to look at his photographs and the newspaper clippings and the sympathy cards and handwritten letters and such, because now you can testify that this boy walked the earth. This boy lived, even for a short 18 months. He existed and he was here, and we have proof of his existence. Okay, and I don't mean to be melodramatic, but it just right, without this, there's no proof that the boy was ever here. So again, I thank you. I truly thank you for sitting with me through this. And again, this is the most important video I've done to date because of the gravity of what we've just covered. There's nothing even approaches this, and we talk about photography, right? But nothing can approach the gravity of what we've just covered. So thank you.